Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. In this episode, we sit down with Christopher Nesi, an educator, podcast host, and thought leader with over 15 years of classroom experience. Chris has been dedicated to helping educators integrate technology effectively and meaningfully into their instruction. Chris is not only the host of the House of Edtech, but he is also the co-host of Podcast PD and the founder of the Education Podcast Network, where you'll find lots of other thought leaders sharing thoughts and feelings about integrating education with technology. Chris has become one of my most favorite people and someone that I look to for advice and thought leadership for myself as well. I've been a longtime advocate and honestly a super fan of Chris for many, many years when he didn't even know that he was part of my inner circle. So I hope that you find a lot of value in this episode as we sit down to talk about how you can bring podcasting to your classroom and how podcasting can become your own personal drug of choice. You'll see why more in the episode. If you aren't already doing so, make sure that you're following Chris on all of his social medias. And if you aren't already doing so, we're thankful that you're here. Hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss out on an episode. And as always, let's get ready to do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leena Marie Saleh, the Edtech Guru. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me on this journey, for all the support that you give me, and for following along. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get ready to do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Christopher Nesi, as you may know him from the House of Edtech. I have been on Chris's show several times, and it's the first time that he's actually exclusively on this show. So, Chris, how are you doing today?
What is up, Leena Marie? It's nice to be here in your piece of content.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. And today we are talking all about podcasting and the power of podcasting in the classroom. And if you can't tell, Chris's setup is a bit different than normal because guess where he is? In his podcasting classroom.
Yes, I'm at school here at the high school I teach at in the podcast studio that I designed, go figure. So hopefully the audio sounds good. It's not my regular setup. And I'm very excited to share some insight on what I do with a podcasting club, podcasting with my students. And hopefully you who is watching will get some inspiration from what we're going to talk about.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I'm hoping to achieve from today's episode as well. And if you don't notice, we're twinning with our mics today. So thanks to Chris, this is why I have this mic actually.
You're welcome.
Quite the podcast pro over here. So if you don't know a little backstory, Chris is a high school teacher, but he also is a professor, teaches at Rutgers, and he has created the Education Podcast Network. And I am a longtime fan, longtime listener of Chris, and we have become friends over the years. So I'm just super excited to have you on.
We're friends?
We are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When you cross and you start texting each other, that means you become the friend bubble.
That's true. We do have each other's phone numbers.
Obviously, Chris, being such a big fan of podcasting, has recently built this podcast classroom. So I would like for you to share a little bit around why you decided to actually start podcasting in the classroom. I know you've talked about it for a long, long time, but this is really the first time that it's really kicking off full swing with your full podcasting studio.
It's really simple. It's no different than any other teacher who, when they're excited about something or passionate about something in their personal life or in their content area, they make it a part of what they do in the classroom with their students or at their school, right? We both, went to high school. We had that English teacher who loved Of Mice and Men, or they loved Shakespeare, and you got more of that content than probably some of the stuff that the other teacher teaching the same class was giving. So for me, podcasting is that, right? So I've been podcasting since 2014 and I fell in love with it. It's my ed tech drug. Okay. I am snorting podcasts like nobody's business. Is that okay to say here? It's YouTube, right?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, exactly. Who cares?
I can't wait to see the reels on this one. But I brought my love of creating content and audio creation and editing and the gear and the actual hardware pieces of this into my classroom. And for me, it started with a Donors Choose grant to get professional grade podcast equipment in the hands and in front of the mouths of my students. And it started with small projects in class. I teach history. Okay. For the last 6 or 7 years now, I've been teaching ninth grade world history. So to be able to create different kinds of products rather than just writing essays or doing research or doing another Google slide presentation in front of the class awkwardly, I can now offer the kids in my class a different way to express themselves and show me what they know, literally by telling me. So that's how it kind of got into my classroom.
And I love that aspect for students because sometimes they just don't, I don't know, who wants to listen to or watch another presentation from Google Slides or PowerPoint, whatever you use. They're typically quite boring, right? Like they're not like zhuzhing you off your feet.
It's not that they're boring. How many people in general can effectively stand up in front of a group of
That's
people
true.
and convey what's in their head or what's in their heart?
That's true.
Some
Very true.
people struggle to do that when they're passionate about a topic. Now you're being asked as a student to talk about something you probably don't know anything about, or you're just regurgitating what you looked up on the internet or in your textbook. And really, a lot of it for me, again, podcasting is one way that I'm really trying to teach my students how to effectively communicate, right? Whether it's history, math, science, communication is such an important piece of what we should be teaching our students at every grade level. So you've got to find age appropriate ways to encourage your students to very simply, and you can see me do this, take what's up here in my head or what's in my heart, and how do I share that with the world? And school is the training ground for that. So when you go get a job or you want to get into a relationship with another human being, you can effectively communicate and not be misunderstood or misinterpreted.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective. And just one that I think sometimes we forget about is the power of storytelling and through the power of words, not just like on a page. But you had mentioned, research and having like a research paper, but actually there's a lot of research, obviously, that goes into the pieces of podcasting. And so I've seen, and I'm sure, and I would love to hear your experience of how you've kind of seen this grow in your classroom, but students, it's the first time that they get the chance to really bring their own voice to their learning and be able to like really be able to showcase it well, because you can't just come up on a podcast and say the War of 1812 and talk about like 3 points, and it's not going to transform anyone's lives. It's like, okay, thanks for
Well,
spitting some
you
facts on a
can,
page.
you can do that, but it's going to sound like this. Hello, today I'm going
Mhm.
to talk about the War of 1812. Oh boy, let me check my note card. And you start sweating bullets
Mhm.
and there's nothing there.
Yep.
There's no substance.
Yeah, and that's just what I really like about, podcasting or vodcasting or, video YouTubing or, whatever it is that you're doing, but just giving kind of a voice to that because it gives students, just even ourselves. I mean, even me, I've had to learn to talk more concisely. Obviously, I throw in a lot of ums throughout the way that I edit out a lot of them. But it just but I think it just is a better, you just get better at being able to communicate what you said. And that transitions to anything that we do in life. So, as far as in your classroom, have you started to see like more engagement? Are students who don't traditionally have a voice really getting excited about the work that they're doing and really even more? Obviously, you and I are both history buffs, but like, are they really getting excited about the things that they can do through the power of podcasting?
My initial answer is no. They're not any more excited. I'm going to be dead honest with you. Um, it's just a 21st century example of teacher comes in, teacher is very excited, and the kids are like, "What the f is this?" That's honest. So my kids are no more or less excited about me saying, "Hey, we've got podcast mics. We can use a podcast studio." They don't care. I'm being dead serious. It's just, but I'm exposing them to it, right? So again, for me, and I've talked about this on the House of Edtech, so I'll share it here. I don't care about the history. I mean, I enjoy history. I got a history degree. I'm not out to make my ninth grade students become history majors. Okay. So, and I know I've talked about this before. It's the 4 C's for me. I want my students to be able to create, communicate, collaborate, and think critically. I do not care if they remember a lick of history, but when they leave my class at the end of the year, they will have gotten experience collaborating with other human beings, which is important now more than ever because of 2.5 to 3 years of not being able to do that in your education, and getting them to create in different ways. So, do I have them do document based questioning and write some essays? Yeah, we do like 4 to 6 of those in a school year. Okay. Do I have them do some presentations? Absolutely. But in a lot of the projects I offer my students, recording audio or video is always an option. And there's only 1 or 2 things that I do where, yes, this is the podcast project where you're all going to do this. So that way I can sleep easy at night and know that they all at some point got to do it and try it. They might not like it now, and some do. I've had kids tell me, wow, Mr. Nesi, this was great. This was fun. And then I say, hey, we've got the podcast club here at school. And I can kind of use that as a way to find the diamonds in the rough of kids who have personality, who I think might be good on the microphone. And then I can bring them here into the studio to do our morning show or create their own show. I'll jump ahead a little bit. My school's population is very diverse, heavy Hispanic, Latino, African American student population, very transient population for the area. It's an urban high school. And I connected with the advisor of our Hispanic Culture Club, which is one of the most popular clubs in my school of 2,300 students. And we have started an all Spanish podcast. Okay. So if you're interested in checking that out, it's called Sazon Latino. It's again, I'm the podcaster, so it's available everywhere. But now I'm giving voice, again, it's not in my classroom, but it's in our school. It's giving literal voice to the majority of our student population. And they're coming in and they're talking about their Hispanic culture, their Latino culture. All right. I just had kids in here before we jumped on this call to make this conversation. And they were talking about the difference between going to school in the Dominican Republic versus going to school here in New Jersey. And they had a 20-25 minute conversation. They were excited. They were animated. And otherwise, these kids were kind of being left out because our morning show is in English. And when I started this as the club, I wanted to give a voice to that population because that's who our school is. Right. So I know I went off on a whole tangent. You're shaking your head. Life is good. So I'll shut up now.
No, I think that's the powerful piece about being able to offer different opportunities for everyone. And podcasting is a really nice thing because it's not exclusive to one person or another.
It's
It
low
can be
stakes.
exactly.
And the barrier to entry is low, right? Yeah, sure. You could have one of these microphones like Leena Marie has or I have, or hello, you have your cell phone. You can podcast with your cell phone. Is it gonna sound like NPR or Joe Rogan or insert professional podcaster? No, but everybody's got the ability. Most of your students have their cell phones. They can go live on Instagram. They can live stream to Twitter. They can record. They can use Anchor. They've got ways to do this, right? And that's not just our students. That's you. That's me, and anybody who's watching. Everybody can try this, and everybody should.
Hmm. I think when I started, I had like a cheap mic or something. I just talked to Tisha Richmond, and she was talking how she did her very first podcast episodes on a car trip with her husband, and you could hear the trucks going by and like whatever else. So, I think a lot of people get super stressed out about having to have the nicest mics and the nicest of everything. But I think that it's good to just start. That's what I always say. Take a no thank you taste. Like just start.
I've been saying for years, just hit record, right?
Hmm.
And ultimately, you listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts. They don't explicitly tell you what they're using to record or create it with. Because when you boil it down, we are trained to tolerate what I would say is subpar audio, right? We've all listened to the radio and we listen to the morning shows or whatever. Hosts sound good, and we have no problem listening to somebody call in and they're on their phone. We're okay with that. So As long as you sound halfway decent, you can be fine. And you can always improve. In my home studio, I have a Shure SM7B. It's a $400 microphone. When I started, I did not have $400 to invest in a microphone. Okay. So you can grow as you go. You can't look at what you're doing and what I'm doing and say, oh, I don't have the money. But that's not an excuse that you can't start.
Because we all started there, right? It's just how it goes. So talking a little bit more about podcasting and, podcasting in your classroom, in your school, you mentioned obviously just a few minutes ago about you having your podcast club. So not only are you doing, offering this in your classroom, but you're doing this as a podcast club. So talk a little bit about what your students are doing and, how that club is obviously growing over time.
Well, we are just over a year old. We launched with our Every Day We Have School morning show on January 3rd, 2022. And that was born out of in the school that I work in, there were some issues with fights, and there was just this starting to be this negative perception within the community of like what's going on at the high school. Okay. So the superintendent and some other higher level administrators came to me and said, hey, Mr. Nesi, you have this podcast gear. You kind of do this with your classes. Would you be willing to do this as a club for the school? And let's create some positive stuff, right? I said, do I have full control to empower our students and literally give them a voice? And they said yes. So now you might think, oh, what do you have to worry about when you put students in front of a microphone? Very simply, I do trust them, and I have a few rules. Talk about things that would be school appropriate and don't curse. Okay. And we do it live every day that their school, 7:15 a.m. Eastern time. You can see our live stream on our YouTube channel and on Twitter. And then after that, we release it as a podcast and it goes to all the places that a podcast can go. But it started with a morning show and finding a couple of students who were willing to come into school almost an hour before they're required to. And they do that. They started this as sophomores. They're juniors this year. They're going to be seniors next year. And it's a way as a teacher to kind of get to know kids in a different way, which is similar to, if you played high school sports, you probably had a teacher who was your coach and you got to know them a little differently than if you had them just in the classroom. So I get to have that different kind of relationship with these kids who come in to do this. And, they're dedicated and, they promote the show and we talk about what it means to create content and about the process and we improve it. And, it's the morning announcements and, we have the theme days, which we actually just revamped. So we just kind of have fun in the morning and we're creating content and these kids have a blast doing it. And then that led to some other students saying, hey, I can't come in early in the morning. Do you do anything after school? So we have an afternoon show that runs a couple of times a month. And then I've been working for months to try and coordinate to get the Hispanic Culture Club to create something. And now that's been launched and that's off the ground. So in just over a year, we have 3 podcasts. We've got kids who are excited about coming here into the studio and recording, and they very quickly get over, oh, I can hear myself in the headphones. So we get over that real quick. Today, I had these Hispanic Culture Club students in here. 4 of them were hosting the episode, and this door opens up to the hallway, and there were 10 to 12 kids just sitting outside watching, like a live studio audience. And they were taking pictures and, putting it on Snapchat and Instagram and, recording. And these kids were really excited because they're like, oh, we're on Spotify and then Mr. Nesi also uploads it to YouTube. So the kids are excited about that, the extracurricular piece of it, because they're talking about what they want to talk about. And that's the difference between the club and what I do in class. In class, I'm presenting the curriculum and, they've got to talk about what they got to talk about. On the morning show, again, keep it school appropriate and don't curse. And we can talk about anything we want. The kids in the Hispanic Culture Club, I'll be honest, I can speak a little Spanish, but I'm sitting here, I have no idea what they're saying. I have to send the audio to their advisor to double check it and make sure everything is, copacetic. But they're talking about what they're passionate about, what they're interested in. And those are the opportunities that we need to provide our students if we want them to blog or do video or do audio.
That's a good point too, is that they have the choice, whereas in class, it may not be their topic of choice, but they're getting that exposure and working on those 4 C's. But in the club is the chance for, other students to get to, be creative and kind of have the creativity of more creative control, I guess you would say. I know we are talking about your podcast and the podcasting club and things like that, but I just had a thought, since you do teach educators at the college, building the teacher pipeline, is this something that you've brought into into the higher ed space?
Absolutely. So with what I do at Rutgers, I actually don't work with pre-service teachers. So I'm working with students in the School of Communication. So what I do with pre-service teachers is I get student teachers here at the school, but at the actual college with the courses I teach, those are kids who are communications majors, IT majors, things of that nature. I work with kids who want to go into PR and marketing. So creating content is bread and butter for those kids. So it's a matter of letting them know, hey, here's what's possible. And the difference between getting those students excited versus the high school students is they want to be there. They've selected their minor, they're choosing the classes, and then I'll pat myself on the back. They're lucky enough to have me, who is just as enthusiastic and can kind of push them, because I'm a pusher. Again, I don't really believe in the whole one word thing, but if I had to pick one, it's pusher. And I push these kids to create. I was able to secure a grant at Rutgers to get a lot of microphones and different recording options. So I have this traveling bag that I can, like the library lends out books, I can lend out pro equipment to the college kids if they want to borrow a microphone, they want to borrow a dongle that they can connect a microphone that maybe they have to their iPhone or their Android phone, whatever. But yeah, it's another opportunity to get more people excited about creating and pursue their passions and put themselves out there. Because the nice thing about college is it's still education, and there's still that safety net that I can provide them before they go off into an internship or they're going on those first interviews after graduation, and they can feel confident and empowered by developing their voice for real.
Gives me chills. It's exciting to be able to have those real world opportunities because, in college, sometimes you just don't have that. It's very traditional.
I am the
Sometimes
opposite
very
of traditional
archaic.
professor.
Well, we could see that, but it's still good for any student to kind of have those like real world opportunities for learning.
And at that point, there's no point in pretending. You got to make it real for the higher ed student, right? I can talk with kids about, hey, here's things you should really consider about your LinkedIn profile and why you should be not only creating your podcast or your Instagram content, but also, a la Gary V, how can you turn and repurpose some of that content and create with context? And it is real for these kids in higher ed.
Yeah. And a skill that a lot of people could just use generally, being able to have context to your storytelling. Because I think that is just a struggle that we see as, people are career hunting or job searching or anything like that, just the power of needing to show your voice in those spaces. So with your podcasting in your classroom, so it sounds like your administration came to you and was like, hey, do you want to do this, sort of club sort of thing? But not everyone has that advantage. So if you were going to tell a teacher who is really excited about doing a podcasting club or just starting podcasting in their classroom, where would you tell them to start? And I'm just going to preface this, that I will link an article down below and Chris's collection of all the podcasting tips and tricks that he has. So he's going to share this, but if you really want to learn more, this will be in the show notes below.
I'd say if you're going to do it in school, regardless of your grade level, first talk to administration. All right. You got to make sure that you go about this the right way. And I think when it comes to audio content, I think that's a little easier, right? Because you don't have to live stream it. You can't see the kids. Okay. So you want to make sure that you do any of this by going through the proper channels to make sure you've got permission. This is not the kind of thing where you want to ask for forgiveness. Okay. When it comes to kids' identities and, putting them out there. But voice is a little easier to justify. right? You can tell students you don't need to use your real name. We're just recording audio. Make up a name. So you can be a little more protective of the safety of your students. Okay. So go and do it the right way from the start. And then, I mean, you can use your phone. Okay. If you can secure any type of donors choose, or through your PTA or your PTO, if you have any type of way to, if your education foundation in your district has money that you can apply for small grants, you can certainly do that. Um, you might even be able to put the word out to your community. Maybe there is a podcaster or podcasters or content creators in your community. Maybe they've got old equipment sitting on a shelf that doesn't serve a purpose for them, but it'll be great for your K-12 students, right? So you have to be creative. And I know I don't need to tell teachers that, but just remember, this is something you can certainly be creative with. You can go on Facebook Marketplace. You can find somebody getting rid of gear that's, gently used. Um, you can just start with your Chromebooks. You can just start with your teacher laptop. If you have iPads, you can record. Okay. It's a matter of getting people comfortable talking. We are hard pressed to find students who don't like to talk, right? So just empower them to talk about something that they care about. Maybe it's the morning announcements. Maybe it's start with, if you want to start a club, go find the 2 or 3 kids who they do the morning announcements on the PA system. They're not afraid to talk on a microphone. They've got some personality. Start there and then tell them to bring their friends. If you want to do it in class, start with whatever technology you have, right? And it's easy to convert an existing project into something where it's content. So for example, currently doing a project where my students, we've been studying imperialism and we're finishing this unit. And the project is, you have been given a bio and you have to pretend you are a British military officer or a British entrepreneur or a British religious figure. And you have to decide, I'm leaving England and I need to make the decision based on some research and primary source document reading. I'm going to move to either a British colony in China, India, or South Africa, because those are the regions that we studied. Their product is, you have to either write a letter to your family explaining why you're leaving, where you're going, and what you hope will happen. That's the basic gist of it. But then we've also given them the option, or you can record an audio message, or you can record a video. In essence, they all have to do the same research, and you can very easily take that letter you've written and decide to record your voice reading it, and you've got audio. Or you could sit down in front of Flip or your Chromebook camera or on your phone, and you can read your letter, and that's your script. So it's just, how are they going to present what they created? They're all in essence writing a letter, but do they want to play around and do something else? And I don't have a lot of students doing the audio or the video, but I have a couple because they're interested in that and they're willing to be creative in that way. But they were all told, they're like, well, how do I create the script? I'm like, write the letter and then do the video or just record audio. And the other tip that I would give is, you got to make kids feel comfortable and safe, right? So with this project, for example, their concern is always, do I have to present it to the class? For this one, no, you don't. I give them the ability to post in our Google Classroom. So I said, if you want to share your letter or your audio or your video with the class, you can post it. Otherwise, myself and my in-class support teacher or my student teacher this semester, we will watch or read or listen. And we'll leave it up to you if you want to share it with your classmates. So we're not forcing them to get up in front of the class and read their letter like it's, 1992. So yeah.
Making students feel comfortable is really, really important, especially with technology, because it could just be, well, not even with technology, just in general, because getting up in front of your peers is the most nerve-wracking experience. It doesn't matter who you are, how many times you've done it, how many reps you've taken. It's still always a really nerve-wracking experience. And
I do have to plead the opposite of that. I mean, we're talking to the whole world right now in theory. I do not, like, that doesn't faze me at this point.
It doesn't. I still get
I'm good.
nervous.
No, I would love to, keynote an ISTE or you said you're about to be going to bed. I don't know when this is coming out versus you taking that trip. But I would have no problem getting up on a stage and talking to 100 people, 5 people, 50,000 people. Let's go. Come get me.
Yeah.
That's also me saying I'm available.
This is a plea, ISTE, if you're listening, FETC, any of the top conferences, Chris is ready to keynote. But but I do really think you would be a really great speaker in that space. Yeah, but I just remember when I was a kid, I hated presenting in front of people. I always got so nervous and so anxious being
And
able to
look at you
present
now
in front of
making
people.
YouTube videos.
Yeah, it's always different though when you're by yourself. I'm still by myself, right? Like presenting and feeling that sort of thing. But it is, it's just putting yourself out there. And I think giving that opportunity for kids is just really, really important. Anything that you can take away from this and our conversation that we're having today is that, it's really low barrier of entry. It doesn't require a lot of tech skills to be able to do. And to be able to upload it, it's super simple. You can upload it to Anchor, which pushes it out to everything. Which actually Anchor is now Spotify for podcasters. I don't really know how we're calling that now, but you can push it out like that and it can go to anywhere, that you have podcasts, and you just need a thumbnail that you can make on Canva. Like you don't have to have like a lot of things to like make it happen, or put it in your web page, or put it on Google Drive, or put it in Google Classroom. It doesn't have to be.
And I'll make it even easier than that too. If you're watching this or you're listening to this and you have reservations about this, reach out to Leena Marie. Reach out to me. All right. I, on a regular basis, get onto Google Hangouts and Skype and Zoom. And I love to talk about this with people and help and encourage. And if you feel your situation is unique and is going to be different than anything we've talked about or that I've shared today, just reach out. Okay. I want to help flatten that learning curve for you and your students. You just have to ask for help, whether it's me or reach out to another podcaster that you know or content creator. Just ask for help.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. And we are always here to help. I think I was talking to Fonz from my EdTech life, and he was saying how sometimes he just gets crickets, like sometimes you just don't know if anyone's listening to you or putting out any information, but some people take you up on it. And I have to say, I actually really appreciate it because one, I know that you're listening, two, that you appreciate it, and three, that you're ready to take the risk. And I think that that's just important for you as well. Um, if a teacher was going to kind of take it to the next level, do you have a favorite editing tool that you like to use, whether web-based? And I know the other one that you like to use, but what is your favorite editing tool for actually editing audio?
My favorite tool is Audacity, right? You can use it on a Mac, you can use it on Windows. And if you are on a Chromebook, then there is a web-based version of it. But if you just Google audio editing tools for online or web-based, they're a dime a dozen. Find one that you feel comfortable with. But if you are on Windows or Mac or Linux, that's also out there too. I recommend Audacity. It is free. My favorite four-letter F word, and the learning curve is not too steep. Now, if you're not yet currently podcasting and you have experience on a Mac using GarageBand, then go use GarageBand, right? Use what you're comfortable with. And if you know nothing, try Audacity.
There's not a wrong tool to use, essentially. I also use Audacity to edit audio, also record audio. It's just easy because exactly what Chris said, it's free, and I love a good free tool. So
It's free. It's supported. It's getting regular updates. Now, if you played with Audacity when you were in middle school or high school, it basically still looks the same, but there is some more functionality. And there are tons and tons and tons of tutorials on YouTube University.
I was
And I can
just
point you to a couple of
going to
them.
say that.
So just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we have covered quite a gamut of things about podcasting and, all of that type of thing. I want to pepper in a little bit here about, students creating outlines and, you said they were doing research and different things like that. How do you think that AI is going to start playing into some of the creation for podcasts?
I think it needs to play a role, right? We talk about sometimes people, and I don't just limit this, and I haven't, and I've intentionally not limited what I talk about here today to just students because it's anybody. Anybody could stumble across this. So people sometimes struggle with being creative. And many people feel they're not the creative type. But creativity is like a muscle, okay? If you work at it and you constantly are trying and you're doing it and you're going through the motions, you'll get better and creativity will spark in you. AI can help with that. I partly wanted to say AI could be the steroids for those who have no muscles and creativity, but and maybe that is a good analogy. You can be the most uncreative person in the world, go to something like a chat GPT, okay, and you could type in, give me 5 podcast titles for a podcast about reading books. And it will give you 5 titles that you could use. And you could say, give me 5 more, give me 5 more, give me 5 more. And then you could say, all right, for title number 2, write me a description. Have it write you a description. You can always change it later. You can edit. If you feel you're not creative, then use the tools that are out there to help you. Okay. Some recent episodes of the House of Ed Tech. I've been leveraging AI to help craft some of the tweets or write some of the copy that I put in the blog posts on my website, where I can say, hey, take what I've written and optimize it for search engines, right? Do some SEO tweaks and make it awesome. Within seconds, it does a better job than me. I didn't go to school for this, right? I've used it to generate questions. I've used it to generate outlines. Okay. So it's a tool and you can use it as such, and your students can be empowered to use it as a tool, right? I was able, I actually didn't, I've done a lot of experiments. So I took all of the episode titles for the House of Ed Tech from 2022, and I said, based on the following episode titles, generate a list of, 20 more. And it came up with 20 more titles that are ed tech based that would be completely different episodes because they cover different topics. So, spoiler, I'm using some of those titles and I've been able to more effectively plan out the type of episodes I want to make this year. I still have to do the research and find the tools and the recommendation. And, I'm sharing my ed tech thoughts in the episodes, but now I've got this ability to come up with episode titles or tweak them or keep going. It's still my voice. It's still my passion that comes through on the microphone, but everybody could use a little help every now and again.
Yeah, I use it often. I'm not embarrassed to say that either. I'm a very early adopter of any kind of tech. So as soon as I can get my hands on something, I like to try it. But definitely for just amplifying your creativity, I think is just important. Because sometimes you're just tired and you have writer's block and you can't even be creative, even if you are a creative person or deem yourself to be creative. Sometimes you're just like, oh, I've done so many episodes. I've done so many topics. I don't know what else to think about. And so you can have it help you. We see marketers doing it. We see people doing it, and it's going to really change, I think, the classroom and the landscape that we live in to hopefully make everybody's lives a little bit easier. But your brain still has to do work. So it's not like it's just doing everything for you and you're whatever. I mean, you could, but you probably should fact check it and make sure it has a little bit of your voice inside of it too. Um, I'm not saying you can or that people won't, but it's just a tool. It's just a jumping off point, I think, sometimes to spark that creativity for you.
And person who might think, oh, I'll just use it to do everything and I'll just make that work. And, I'll put some energy into the words that I didn't come up with. You'll eventually get bored, right? And the inauthenticity will shine through to your audience, or if you're trying to build an audience, it'll come through. Trust me.
And we know that all too well. We've seen it go, and we've seen people have that sort of like burnout and things like that. So just make sure, yeah, what you're saying, like you're connected to the topics that you're doing, and you're not just leveraging the tool to do the work for you, and that you're embracing it to empower you to do your best work.
Yes. I don't know that you can say it any better than that.
Chris, as always, we'll wrap it up there because I think that's a good ending point. Obviously, embracing tools and ed tech as much as we can. But I really, really enjoyed having you on, as always, in our conversation. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Chris, if anybody wanted to connect with you, where is your favorite place or best place to connect with you?
Go to my website, chrisnesi.com, and there's a contact form. You could send me a voicemail. All my social information is there. Go to chrisnesi.com.
Amazing. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you subscribe to the House of EdTech. You will not regret it. I promise you.
And if you're watching this video and you haven't clicked subscribe and smash the bell and all that stuff, do that now.
Yes, that'd be great. Amazing. Well, thank you, Chris, so much for joining us for another episode. And as always, we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you so much. You've made it this far. We are so thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below, and join us for all of our next videos. Thank you so much for joining us as we disrupt education together. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.